Hello everyone, I'm Kat from the Littlestown Library of the Adams County Library System, and welcome to our Tiny Art for Adults and Teens. Today, in honor of the upcoming 4th of July holiday, which is Independence Day, America's 250th birthday, we are doing fireworks on the 4th. So that is the painting that we're doing today. If you signed up for an art kit, then you will receive the following: one blank 4x4 canvas, a tiny easel, one paintbrush, and paint pots with the following colors: red, white, blue, black, silver, and gold. So that is what you will receive if you signed up for an art kit. You are more than welcome to use the supplies that you have at home if you have your own paint and don't need a kit that has everything included. But I also recommend that you have paper towels or newspaper to put down so you don't get paint everywhere, as well as a paper towel to clean your brush between colors. You should also have a cup or some kind of other container that you can put water in, so you can also clean your brush. And it might be a good idea to have a paint palette of some kind, which could be another paper towel, a paper plate, a plastic lid that doesn't go to anything, or you can also get a cheap little plastic paint palette as well. So without further ado, let's get painting. So first we're going to get some blue, and we are going to just lay some right down across the top for our sky. Now we can mix, I'm just putting in just the straight blue at the moment. But we can also grab some white, and you can either pre-mix it or you can mix it on the canvas. It all depends on what kind of look you want to use, or how what kind of texture you might want, or how many other colors you might want to move in. I usually start with just the straight colors, and then kind of mix on the canvas if I am doing like backgrounds and stuff, especially skies that are kind of meant to be mixed. So we're just gonna go ahead and put that in, and if it's like you want something a little bit darker, like up towards the top, you can grab some more straight blue and mix that in, making sure that you get the edges of your canvas, or you can just stick with with the lighter blue and get some white and mix that in. So we do want kind of the middle to be a little bit lighter, like it's going to be a little bit darker at the top, a little bit darker at the bottom, and then it's going to be a little bit lighter in the middle. So if you end up making it all more uniform, that's totally fine. We're kind of going for you know, that evening summer sky, you know, where it's night, but like there's still kind of enough ambient light that you can see. You know, it's not pitch black out, you know, because it's usually not pitch black out when fireworks are happening, but I guess it depends on like the time of year and all of that. But you can see the bottom, I'm kind of doing a darker blue, and I'm just making sure to turn my brush so that way any paint that has built up can come off in the rest with the rest of the paint. So going to put a little bit more white in the middle here to just lighten up the middle a bit. And then getting the darker blue and bringing that down. Now you don't have to go all the way down to the bottom, because the very bottom is going to be, like the bottom area is going to be covered in black, so you don't have to paint all the way down if you don't want to. I am going to add a little bit more blue because this is a little bit too light in here. This is supposed to be nighttime. So I'm gonna add some more blue in, and then just keep moving it. Again, the sky is very versatile and volatile as well, depending on the weather and everything. So a uniform sky is not something you usually see. So that's why it's totally okay for this to be a little bit, you know, there's variation there. So and some more blue, just darkening up that a bit. It might look a little bit brighter on the screen than it does in person, because it is a bit brighter looking, and part of that is just because of my lighting. But yeah, basically you get it to a point where you like it. Again, if you just want to do a straight flat blue all the way all the way across the board, you can totally do that, because the focus is going to be on the fireworks. So once you have your sky looking the way you want, again, not neglecting the sides, you'll want to let it dry completely, because we're going to be layering other colors on top of it. So you want to make sure that it's not going to smudge. So once that is set up the way that you like it, and you are comfortable with the colors and the color scheme that you have for your night sky, then go ahead and let it dry. Depending on how much paint you have on there, it could take 5 to 10 minutes, but then we just want to let that sit and dry completely before the next step. Okay, so once that is dry and your brush has been cleaned, you want to get a little bit of white, and you might want to kind of like swivel it on your palette so that way there isn't like a whole lot of white on there, because you do want to just have very light white, because we are going to make some smoke swirls. So just basically very lightly letting your brush touch the canvas to get some of the paint off, but just very lightly, and making kind of circular motions to brush that. And then once it's off, then you can kind of do a more thorough brush motion. So you see how that's kind of just swirling. I'm like pressing down here to make it, to spread it out, and then I am, so you can probably hear it too, because you don't really, because it's smoke, you don't want to really see firm lines and stuff, and some of that will be like will be, you know, hidden and everything, but and you can get a little bit more white, again, kind of get some of it off of your brush, and then some more like smoke-like areas. And you see I'm kind of using the side of my brush and kind of scraping it. This isn't necessarily great for the brush, but And once again, like I usually say, if there's something that happens and you don't like it, you really don't like it, then you can just paint over it, let it dry, and then keep going. Like with this paint, like with this, like if I didn't like anything that was happening here, and I was just like, nope, I need to start over from scratch, then I could just get, I would have to get more white than what I'm giving you folks, but you could use, white, preferably a white gesso, which is the type of paint that is actually used to prep canvases. That's very opaque, so it's not see-through at all. And you can use that to like just brush all the way over and completely erase it and start over from scratch, basically recanvassing it. Artists actually used to do that sometimes, especially when they were like students and stuff. They would paint over their canvases and reuse them and reuse them and reuse them, because artists are poor and art students are even more poor. So that's how that went. So so once you have some smoke, you don't need a whole lot, but you do want some smoke because fireworks are explosives. So you do want some smoke kind of out there, because you usually see it more so after the fireworks are over. But so I'm going to, and part of the reason why I think this didn't blend quite as well is because my brush was dry, completely dry. Now I've gotten my brush slightly damp, and you can see that that is spreading the white out and making it more smoky. But again, I've just dampened my brush. I have not made it very wet. It's just lightly damp, because when it's wet like this, you can start pulling up the paint from underneath it. So I'm gonna clean my brush again, and now I'm gonna get my black. So the black, we're just gonna paint down here. This is gonna be our silhouette that we have of the trees. This actually is kind of this sort of setup is actually based on how I used to watch fireworks as a kid. We usually wouldn't go into like down to the main area where they would have the fireworks proper, because it was super crowded. There were lots of people and cars, and like we were little kids, I was a little kid, my parents didn't like crowds, I still don't like crowds, that kind of thing. And so what we would do is we would actually walk to a spot in a neighborhood near us, and that was on a hill. There were two churches up there with like a playground in between. We called them the twin churches. And we would sit up there on the hill, and we would look out over this vast expanse of grass, and we would look, and there was a highway as well, so we would see, we would be sitting on top of the hill, we'd be looking down this expanse of grass and over a highway, and then this expanse of trees, which is now so if you see, you can tap your brush like this, just kind of tapping, making it kind of irregular. So you have the tops of trees, and that was exactly what we would see, is we would be looking out over this expanse of grass and this, the highway, which at that hour of the night didn't have a whole lot of people on it, and you would just look out, and then we would see this line of trees. So whenever they had fireworks, we could see the fireworks that popped up over the trees, over the line of trees, but like the lower fireworks we couldn't really see. We would just see these lights flashing down below, which was always really interesting when it got to the finale, because the finale, they usually didn't fire up the fireworks really high. They just had a whole bunch going off, so you wouldn't see anything up here. We would just see this boom flash, boom flash. Looks like some kind of war going on. It was kind of crazy that we would see for the finale, so we wouldn't actually see any fireworks, but it was cool. And that's basically, so this is basically the view that you are seeing, that I am recreating from when I was a child. So you can decide if you would like it seem like your fireworks are closer. You are certainly welcome to have like a tall tree, you know, here, or if you want some other trees sticking up higher, you know, you could do that. Just make sure not to obscure too much of your sky here. So, and you want to make sure that you get the sides of your canvas. Make sure your trees go all the way around on both sides and across the bottom. Okay. And you want to make sure that this black down here, you don't see anything through it. Okay. So once that is done, you don't necessarily have to do anything more with the black. We don't need to do anything more with that. So you can clean your brush. And this is where we get to the part with the fireworks. Okay. So you can do a couple different things with the fireworks. We have the main ones that I'm going to be using are red, gold, and silver, because we already have the blue background. So, and fireworks are, if you just get like a little bit of red, and you can go whoop, 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 whoop. Just thin little, like that. So you can do things like, you can do something like that. And if it's too dull, that is no problem. You can just go over it with another layer, which we might need to anyway, because we do want this to be bright. So some fireworks, they kind of go, you know, they go out like that. They're of course the ones that kind of arc more. So if you want this to arc more, you can kind of have it go like more like a weeping willow tree. Always thought of them as like weeping willow trees, you know, that kind of thing. So, but you do want them to kind of come back to an epicenter, you know, here. So this one's a little bit, I'm just using the edge of my brush and just kind of tapping down the lines that I've already established in order to make it brighter. So another way that you can do this is if you have a sponge, you can kind of like take the color and sort of do a kind of like we do with the smoke, and kind of do a swirl here where the smoke is and everything, which I'm gonna do that kind of right there. And then I'm going to turn my brush around and get a little bit on the end of my brush and do little sparks. Just to kind of, if you have a very fine point brush, you can do that as well. Just remember, it's like these are explosions. This is stuff that is just flying out into space, out into the atmosphere. And so, I mean, you can look at pictures of fireworks. You can just remember that even though they are explosions, fireworks are subject to gravity. So when you are making like these lines and stuff of the arcs and everything, the bottoms are going to be shorter than the tops because of how gravity is pulling them down and everything. So Now I'm going to mix in with this. I'm going to end up putting some gold in as well, but first I want to try to make this a little bit brighter, or maybe I can just leave it for now, because that's the one thing is that's like, because it's on the blue background, it's dulling out the red, and that's just an inevitability when you're doing a bright color on a dark background. So in the meantime, we can also use a different technique for one of the other fireworks. So I'm going to, once again, I'm going to make sure I clean off the back of my brush, and I'm going to get some gold, and I'm going to do another one. Let's see, I'm going to do one up here. Yeah, I can do one up here. So I'm going to do one of those like circular ones, and I am just taking the gold and just lightly tapping in a circle. Just make sure that you pick up your brush entirely when you're tapping, otherwise you'll get connected dots like I just did. But you'll see you can have bigger ones towards the center where it's coming out, and then you've got smaller ones around the edge. So this is standing out a little bit better in person than it is on the camera. The camera might be lightening it up a little bit. But I am just doing that glitter circle. And you can make it more symmetrical. Mine's not quite as symmetrical as I would have liked, but that's okay. And like with this one here, I can add a couple little dabs of gold, like at the end, because sometimes they do like mix the colors. Misty-ish looking, so I might have to break that up a little bit, but yeah, so that's basically the idea. Having one of those like golden crackles right there, and then I'm going to do the same kind of thing, but I'm going to get some silver, and I'm gonna do like a couple silver sparkles. So, and then I'm gonna just try to drag using just the end of my brush. Use one of those like silver sparklers that just kind of comes up and just kind of explodes. Now I'm going to turn my brush around and try to, because that didn't quite work the way I wanted it, and that's okay. And I'm going to get some white and put in there. I'm not sure I like that. Like that one I was trying to do like those silver sparkler things. I don't really like that. Like that kind of just doesn't quite work for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn this into a kind of sparkle, and I'm going to clean my brush. And some of this cleaning of the brush isn't to actually clean the brush per se, but to make the end of my brush as narrow as possible. So that way, when I create these lines inside, I am doing them as thinly as humanly possible without a specialized brush. Okay, so that kind of that's kind of working a little bit better for me. Okay, so that's a little bit better. And then I'm actually going to erase basically this portion by getting some blue and some white. Now this one I am going to pre-mix because I want to try to match here so it's not as obvious that I am covering something up. Up some of that smoke a little bit too. So you might still be able to see a little bit of it, and that's okay, because once it dries and we can add some other bits over it, then it won't stick out as bad. But see, this is a perfect example of being like, hey, I tried something, I didn't like how it turned out. And what did I do? Did I throw my easel across the room? No. Did I, break my paintbrush and swear that I'm never going to do any painting ever again? No. Because this is just how it works sometimes. And there's no shame in that. There's no harm in that. And paint is very, very forgiving. So it's not a big deal to just be like, okay. Now, if you need a minute, like if you've been working on this for a while and like you did something, you're just like, oh crud, I don't like that, I need to fix it. And you need a moment to like walk away, totally fine, totally legit. You can do that. If something is frustrating you, it's much better to walk away and take a breather than to keep going at it and to make yourself more angry with it, because you don't need that. No one needs that kind of stress in their life. So, especially with art, like art is something that's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be part of the human experience. And yes, while a lot of human experience is very frustrating, this doesn't need to be one of them. Now you'll notice like I have painted over it, but we can still see some of the silver showing through. That is okay. That is not a problem. That is something that we can just do another round of paint over if we need it. For the moment, I am going to turn my attention back to the red, come on cat, word, red firework, and I am going to just put some more red. I'm trying to brighten it up a bit and trying to make it look less like a pinwheel and more like an actual firework. And so I'm just taking, as you can see, I'm just using the end of my brush and I'm just adding little bits to it. Kind of going over the lines and trying to make them look a little more sparkly and less pinwheel-like, even though like pinwheel is like a legit firework type. I think pinwheel is one of them, but we're not doing one of those right now. We're just trying to make this one brighten up a bit. And again, if you have specialized brushes or like toothpicks or something, you can use those. And that's totally fine. And you can see that, you know, this isn't exactly, it's not precise, you know, it's not precise because it's a firework and they're explosions. Explosions aren't necessarily precise. I mean, I'm sure if any of you are demolition experts, then I'm sure you can like yell at me and explain how actually demolition is extremely precise. But this is why I'm an art person and not a demolitions expert, because I don't know how that all works. So yeah, that's why I'm here instead of in demolitions. So, but yeah, so that's kind of with that there. And I am going to, I think, do another I think I'm gonna do one more firework, maybe. Because you can have these kind of like overlapping, like I don't have these guys overlapping as much, but you can have fireworks, you know, overlapping. And like this guy, like he could even have, you know, you see there, that's shooting up, and I just did one long like that to indicate that it is, you know, blowing up. Or I could even do it this way. Like we could extend this one. We could do that instead. We could have it two. There's two that are going up like that. That is fine. And then I clean my brush and I get my gold and I go whoop, whoop, whoop. There we go. There's my gold. You know? If I don't really care for this one, like I like the shape of this, but I don't really like the angle, and I would much rather deal with this angle. Whoop. And I could just do that, and then I can erase the other one with some blue. And I can always wait. It probably would be better to wait and like let that dry before messing with it. But just to show you that you're not married to any particular thing, any particular design, you know, just because you've painted it that way doesn't mean it has to stay that way. So I've kind of got that one, and like even this one, like, yeah, maybe I don't really care for how that one turned out. So you can see there's a lot of kind of going back and forth, and a lot of being like, maybe I like this, maybe I don't. Probably a little bit more than normally I would do, but I'm just trying to demonstrate with something that is relatively simple and pretty asymmetrical that you are not obligated to stick with one thing. So I've got some more gold here, and I'm going to redo my swoop. So, like that. Kind of committing and then down and then lifting, just real quick. So, and like even my little silver, you know, here, this one I can even redo and do a better one than what I did originally. So, but for now, gonna let that sit because we've done some changes down here, or at least I have. You might be like perfectly fine. Like you may not have any issues right now, but for me, I feel like I need to let that dry so that way I can properly touch things up. And I might add another, then I can decide whether I want another firework or not, or if I just want those three, or if I want like some other sparklers or something like that. So I'm gonna let that dry, and if you are in a similar boat where you're not quite ready or you're not quite done, you know, or you need to wait for some changes to dry, then just make sure they dry entirely before moving on to the next step. Alrighty, so now that that has dried entirely, I can work on getting this to match better than it was. And now that it's dry, then there's less chance of it getting all weird, plus it'll cover up more. So it's a little bit lighter than it should be, so I need to get some more blue. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. So I don't get random white streaks in there. Okay, so as you can see, hopefully anyway, that cleaned up pretty good. And now I'm gonna add a little bit of silver here to indicate that it's coming up there, and I do want to add some silver sparkles up here. Which may or may not be a good thing. Apparently I'm not good at these guys. They're just... it's not great for some reason. I don't know why. But, that's okay. I kind of like having one of the sparkles up there, and I'm kind of just making it a little bit fuzzier. And then I think I'm gonna have another small like maybe, ooh, no, I don't have any just straight up white fireworks. What am I doing? This is red, white, and blue. Where's the white? So I'm gonna do another little, so if you want like a firework to kind of like overlap, you can do that. So I'm gonna have a white firework overlapping there. And that's all right. Not entirely happy with that. That's a little bit harder to fix though. I love it. It's all good. It's all just art. It's fine. Fireworks are a little bit crazy sometimes, so it's okay. Because again, the explosions. Alrighty. And we can also do a little bit, if you get some gold. throw some sparkles. I don't know if that's working very well. Yeah, there's a little bit of gold sparkling going on. It's a little bit harder to control. I'm trying to splatter a little bit of like gold sparkles here and there. And then get some silver like up here. It's the paint or me or what, but it's not spattering very well. And we'll get some white. There we go. We've got some there. I'm just trying to keep it off the black on the bottom there. But I might need to touch that up a little bit because there's some gold and stuff that got down there. So a little bit of touch up. And I'm gonna add a little more. Sparks in there. That's all fancy and fantastical, and that's totally fine. And I think I might add a couple little red bursts. There's a little red burst there. Jeez, of course I got some on my... I'll have to cover that up. I got a little bit of red where it wasn't supposed to. Then. That became a bit bigger than I was expecting, but it's fine. Like I said, this is just I'm kind of playing around at this point. Again, you don't have to have nearly as many fireworks. You do not need to go the way that I am going. I feel like I'm getting to a point where I might need to stop myself in order to keep from doing more harm than good with this, because I might be getting to a point where where it's hard to cover up some things, and I'm just like, adding more in an attempt to make it look better when that's actually I needed less. But that's okay. Like I said, this is just, I mean, again, fireworks are messy. You know, we're celebrating the 250th, which is messy, and just, there's just a lot of mess, you know? There's a lot of mess happening, and that is okay. We can just embrace this particular little bit of mess and make it our own. So I'm adding some white in there just to make it a little bit less stark, and to add like a little bit of white flash to it. And then here I'm gonna have just a little starburst. If I can get it to cooperate, I'm just trying to turn that around in a circle. Whoop, sorry, I just keep hitting my thing there. So yeah, it is just one messy sky up there, and that is okay. I'm just gonna do one more little white one over here. I just feel like I need another one. This one with a little bit of silver. There we go. So yeah. There we go. That's more of like what I was trying to do. So yes, that is a crazy messy sky, and I kind of love it. Just with all these little like explosions and pops. So I went a little bit overboard. That is totally okay. You do not need to do the same that I did. That is also totally okay. If you just want one big, crazy, perfect, like, you know, firework like right in the middle, that is totally fine. If you just want to do, you know, if you want to do multiple fireworks, that is totally fine. You know, if you want to do kind of like I did and just have a whole mess of crazy fireworks going off, totally legit, totally okay. You can make it however you want. This is your 4th of July celebration. So you can make it however you want. I do think that I am going to call it a day. Ooh, oh, that's interesting. I'm getting an interesting texture with the paint that is left over on my brush. We're going to just kind of paint over that a little bit with my black. So yeah, so there we go. So there's our 4th of July fireworks on the 4th for the 250th anniversary of the United States of America coming into existence, at least on paper, with the Declaration of Independence in 1776. So there we go. So hopefully you enjoyed this tiny art for adults and teens. Hopefully you enjoyed some of the mess and the chaos that came along with it. And hopefully we'll see you in another one soon.